Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillahi wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een wa ba'd. Allah in His name we begin, the eternal with no beginning, everlasting with no ending. Peace and choicest salutations upon the cream of creation, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's been a while since I've done a video. Of course, with everything that's happening in Gaza, in Palestine, um, everyone's mourning that crisis and that genocide. And then, unfortunately, I've been inundated with messages from the community and the public, former students and students as well, asking me to take a look at a certain da'i who has been making some unsavory and distasteful statements. So I had a look, and sometimes from a vantage point, you don't know whether to laugh or cry at some of these statements, but very, very terrible. Now, at the onset, I just want to say a few things. We're going to go through the video. It's not a very long video of it. We're going to go through the statements. This is not an academic refutation. Alhamdulillah, this is a book that I've written in October. You can see the image also up on your screen, The Incoherence of Quranism, in which the ILS has presented a 300-page book that academically breaks down the subject of Quran only and Hadith rejection and puts in almost every chapter challenges for which I don't think there would ever be a logical, coherent response to. That is what we believe. And if there was, from October to now, we would have had a response. So that's our academic responses there. This is merely a warning to the community. Now, the video refutation that we're doing is primarily, look, you can see at the bottom, refutation of Ayub Karim's distasteful remarks against traditional Islam. He is inconsequential. I don't know him personally. I've never met him. I don't have any dealings with him. We hope, inshallah, that he's guided. But the problem and the reason for this is because of the message that is being purported, not him. I don't even think many people in Durban even know who he is, right? But the problem is that when someone comes out and is arrogant and insulting to a historical tradition of Islam, and then in his own delivery, he assumes that he's so righteous, but then he commits logical fallacies upon fallacies, then we have to come to the fore and say, look, you have erred. You have made some significant mistakes, and there's time for you to correct these mistakes. And this is the aim and objective here, is not to name and shame. It's not to come out to the public to malign, although his video is public, but it is to get the message out to the community that there is a deceitful, incorrect misrepresentation of Islam being purported by a man who is a supposed da'i. And in my book, we have a section on why da'is end up in this problem. Some da'is anyway. So I'm going to start the video. We're gonna start it. We're going to pause and we're going to go through some of the statements. But again, this is just an overview guideline. My advice to my brothers and sisters in Islam, especially to the Hadith rejectors, who I know are going to come up with pathetic comments in the comment section of this video, because you don't have a yardstick of measuring prophetic character traits, which we have from the Hadith. So you have that problem. But instead of saying, Sheikh, you don't know this and you don't know that, no problem. I don't know everything. I don't know much at all. But then take on my book. Let's see an academic response for the so-called intellectuals who did all of these academic studies in university and want to come and tell us that ulama are dudwalas, we don't know anything. Let's see you come to the fore and respond to the work of these dudwalas, as you call us. Because if you can't respond academically to someone who you look down upon, it says a lot about yourself, right? So let's go very quickly, and we'll continue by pausing the discussion, and we'll look through a few things, inshallah, and we will try to present just piece by piece and just give you an overview of the statements made by Prophet Muhammad.
Peace be with you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the specially merciful. My name is Ayub Karim and welcome to my channel, Quran Inspires Me. People generally talk about prophets in this context. They say, my prophet or our prophet, when referring to mainly to Prophet Muhammad and then to other prophets as well. For example, Prophet Jesus or Prophet Moses. Now, I am Quran only, so I don't have a prophet. Now, I know everybody is shocked at this statement. I am making a statement. I don't have a prophet. But I follow the prophets mentioned in the Quran with particular reference to Prophet Muhammad. So, I follow the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the Quran. Whose prophet is that? According to the Quran, Allah chooses a man from among men and appoints him as his prophet. That is Allah's prophet. I never appointed him, so he is not my prophet.
Okay, so let's go to the first point. Ayub Karim mentions that he is Quran only, which means that he rejects the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This is a huge, huge problem because when you reject the hadith of the Messenger ﷺ, you are left with a big problem because in essence, if you are a thinking person, then you actually reject the Quran. Now, I've written a section here that shows how hadith rejection leads to Quran. But just to give you an example, again, this is not an academic response for our lay people. Look, let's just take this book as an example, right? Or any book. The book itself has a contents within it, and within the contents is the context of the book. So it has an contextual relation. So within the book, there's context. So, example, chapter 2 has context relating to perhaps chapter 1 or chapter 3. That's the context within it. But outside of the book has its own context. Like, for instance, did this cover, which by the way, Brother Muhammad Qasim, the brand shop, Allah Ta'ala reward him, did this book cover design just by the click of a finger appear? Well, Shaykh Faheem didn't design it. So there's an external context. Did these pages fall from the sky? From the, what's the line they use in Durban, from the popo tree? Did it fall down from there? So there's an external context that will explain this book. And that's the same thing with the Quran. When you reject the hadith, you have no external historical source to prove the historicity of the Quran. And this is a defeater argument for hadith rejected. So the first thing, Ayub Karim says he is a Quran only. So my brothers in Islam, my sisters in Islam, please be aware. If you are following this person or people like him, Quran centric, Quran alone, Quran only, Quraners, Quraniyun, be very, very careful. You don't know what you're really getting yourself into. That's the first point. The second point, he says he doesn't have a prophet. Now, he tries to explain what he means by that, but he further digs the hole even more deeper, because he even shows that his command of the English language is problematic. He says because Allah appointed the prophet, so the prophet is Allah's prophet. What's the purpose of a prophet? Is a prophet sent for Allah or by Allah? Sent by Allah, not for Allah. Is the prophet sent to the people or by the people? Sent to the people. You can only send a messenger to deliver a message. So this is the basic understanding which all people in history, Muslim or non-Muslim, understood. But Quran alone, like Ayub Karim and these lot, they just even think that they can make up the English language and just change things. One of the only consistencies of a Quranist is inconsistency. That's my own experience, right? So that's the first problem that we see here. Okay, let's move along.
Allah appointed him as a prophet. So that is Allah's prophet. Allah commanded those various prophets to take his message to the many nations and tribes of the world. Prophet Muhammad was instructed to reveal the Quran to the Arabs. And in turn, the Arabs were supposed to deliver the message of the Quran to the rest of mankind. I follow this Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, now here's another problem. He makes a claim. This is where Quranists say anything that comes in their mind. They do the greatest disservice to the Quran. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this Quran to be revealed by the Prophet ﷺ to the Arabs. I ask Ayub Karim, all Quranists, to search cover to cover of the Quran to find me one verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent only to the Arabs. And then the Arab was supposed to take this message to the Arabs. This is what he's saying. So he's made a claim. This is his, amongst many claims that he's already made, this is his first claim on the Quran. The others were from his own. His claim on the Quran is that it's for the Arabs only. In fact, the Quran, example in Surah Sabah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the Prophet was sent as kafatan linnas. Bashira wa nadira, he sent to all of humankind. And then the Quran says, وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Majority of people don't know. He doesn't know also. He doesn't know this verse, but he's a Quran only. He doesn't know that the Prophet ﷺ was sent as Rahmatul lil Alameen, not sent to the Arabs only. So this is a grave error on his part. So I ask him to present that verse. Now, if he does decide to respond, I'm not going to go further into it. Again, if he wants to respond, Brother Ayub, use your aql. You are a so-called scholar. Engage with a 300-page document, a book, and put it in writing so we can see what scholarship you have to offer in your so-called circular reasoning of Quranism.
Mentioned in the Quran. There is a 99.99% chance that you will hear Sunnis say, our Prophet or our Prophet Muhammad. When they say this, they think that they are referring to the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the Quran. Even Shias do the same. But now with the Sunnis, they say that Prophet Muhammad is their Prophet. I agree. But not the Prophet Muhammad of the Quran, because they do not obey the Prophet Muhammad of the Quran. So when Sunnis tell me that Prophet Muhammad is their Prophet, I do not get into an argument with them. I just let it slide. So when they say their Prophet Muhammad, I know that they are referring to the Prophet Muhammad. But they do not realize that their Prophet Muhammad is not the Prophet Muhammad of the Quran, but they are referring to another Prophet Muhammad which was actually created, or rather fabricated, by Imam Bukhari and the Sahih Sittarian. The Sunnis actually created their own Prophet. Although Allah sent Prophet Muhammad, they were not happy with that Prophet Muhammad. So the Sahih Sittarian created their own Prophet Muhammad. So technically speaking, they have a right to say their Prophet, because they have created, they fabricated their own Prophet Muhammad, which is totally different from the Prophet Muhammad of the Quran. And guess what?
Okay, so few things. Brother Ayub, again, if you consider Quranism, if you really are serious about this, then the Quran is in Arabic. Do yourself a favor and know what you're talking about. At least if you want to be against traditional Islam, you say Sahih Sittarian, you've just proven that you don't even know basic transliteration. The fact that you're saying Sittarian means that you assume that Sitta ends with a R, which it doesn't. And then it's not Sahih Sitta, it's Siha Sitta. So you want to make a mockery, but in essence, you are mocking yourself. Now, you're saying that we invented, we fabricated our own version of the Prophet Muhammad. I challenge Quranists, not you. I mean, again, you are inconsequential to me. My responsibility is to the Ummah, to the community. We challenge Quranists. Show us your full feature, the character, the traits, of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that you want us to follow. Show it to us from the Quran. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get the full picture. The full picture is from the Hadith. Oh, yes. And you know that very well. In order for you to try to find any kind of guidance on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you have to turn to the Hadith, and we'll show you that you've even used the Hadith yourself, or you've been conditioned and manipulated by it.
Who initiated the fabrication of that brand new Prophet Muhammad? You guessed right. It was none other than one of the so-called greatest scholars of Sunnism. So, Imam Bukhari gets first prize for that. So, the Sahih Sitarians have fabricated a brand new Prophet Muhammad. Why? Because they didn't want to obey the Prophet Muhammad of the Quran. They wanted to follow a prophet according to their desires. So they went and fabricated their own Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, so let's understand the logic here, right? The information about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran as compared to the Hadith is minimal. Meaning, when we look at the full detail of his life and times, minimal. Because the Quran is not a revelation about the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a guideline for humankind in which there are mentions and guidelines of how he conducted himself, yes, in many, many instances. But as a biographical sketch, it's not in the Quran. Now, what you're saying is we wanted to make life easy to follow our desire. So what we did is we made life very, very difficult by fabricating hundreds and thousands of hadith, which would make our life more difficult, which would cause many, many rulings to stop us from doing things that we would like to do or want to do, because we wanted to follow our desire. Does that even make sense? Because if someone wanted to follow their desire, they would actually say, let's not follow the hadith because the hadith restricts our movement. We have to read Jum'ah. We have to give adhan. This is halal. This is haram. We have to make wudu like this. We have qasr like this. We have to, all of these, hey, no. If I want to follow my desire, I think I need to follow Quran only. That's an easier option. So you've just proven by your statement that your argument is argumentum ad absurdum. That's what it is. It is an absurd argument that you're making. You're not even thinking about what you're saying. That's how cultist ideology works anyway.
So the Sunnis are technically correct when they say their Prophet Muhammad.
Not just technically, we're actually correct.
So when a Sunni guy says, my Prophet Muhammad, I agree with him. So when Sunnis claim that Prophet Muhammad is their prophet, they are correct because they are following a fabricated prophet and not Allah's Prophet Muhammad. It is important that we know the difference between Prophet Muhammad of the Quran and the fabricated Prophet Muhammad of the Ahadith. The Prophet Muhammad of the Quran is ranked of a very, very high status, of exemplary character, and a person of sound judgment. He was unpretentious. He was a man of substance, a man of tenacity. He was a man of conviction, a man who knew in which direction he was going and not flaunting himself in the manner in which our dudwalas do. The Ahadith portrays Prophet Muhammad as a warmonger, a man with an uncontrollable sexual appetite, a man of unsound judgment, and a person who gives illogical and stupid advice. In short, the Sahih Sitarian portrays Prophet Muhammad as one steeped in ignorance. But that is their fabricated prophet whom they love so blindly. I thought I would mention this because when I...
So, Ayub Karim is saying that the hadith and the hadith corpus makes the Prophet ﷺ look like all of these terrible things in contrast to the Quran. I challenge Brother Ayub Karim, because we know what hadith rejectors do. they conduct in something called the cherry picking fallacy. And there are other fallacies like the fallacy of composition, um, and other fallacies of such, where, as an example, if there's 1,000 hadith, you find one that's problematic, and then you say all are incorrect. These are fallacies. Again, this is not an academic discussion. I don't want to go into the details, but this is exactly what they do. So when we put forth these challenges, what they do, they go quickly Google this hadith, because they don't know hadith sciences. They don't know how to match a sanad. They don't know the turuq. They don't know the shawahid. They don't know how to grade hadith. They don't know. They just know sahih, da'if, mawdu, because they saw the classification there at the bottom of the translation, right? And this is the problem, that when you forsake foundational principles of Islam, and then you want to just go into academia and get all famous and debate Christians, and then they present you with the hadith and you don't know how to deal with it, so you bin it. That's the difference between the dudwala and the ulama. The dudwala does what these people actually do.
In dealing with the laws of Allah, one will be able to get a clearer picture. The important fact I wish to mention here is the message, as found in Surah 16, verse 125. We read, Ud'u ila sabili rabbika. I just want to stop over there.
Right. Now let me tell you why Brother Ayub Karim wants to stop there. Actually, before that, I don't mean to do this, Brother Ayub. People who know me will tell you I'm not one that just goes and corrects people in public. But you know what? If you want to go on a public platform and insult traditional Islam, insult the Prophet ﷺ, as reported in the books of Hadith, if you want to insult the Tabi'een, insult the integrity of Islamic scholarship for over 400 years, then unfortunately you can't be upset with what's to come. You are doing a great disservice to the Quran. You put a verse of the Quran forward and you can't even recite it properly. Everyone who, maybe you can't see the actual writing now, but when I press play, you can rewind it shortly. When I press play again, you'll see it says ud'u, singular, talking to the Prophet ﷺ. Ud'u ila sabili rabbik. He says ud'u, plural. He can't even read that properly. And then you hear in the translation, he mistranslates it in plural. Listen.
Ud'u ila sabili rabbika. Invite all to the way of thy Lord.
Invite all to the way of thy Lord. Okay? And he says he wants to stop there. You know why he wants to stop there? Because the next part of the verse, he contradicts it. It says, call to the path of Allah with wisdom, bil hikmah. And of course, they have a huge problem with this word hikmah. In fact, we have a section in this book of how the word hikmah is a destruction to the Quranist foundational belief system. They cannot explain the hikmah. They can try to mix and match words. The Quran is saying, be wise, use good speech. Is this good speech? And you haven't heard what's to come, what he's going to say next, and you would be the judge whether this person representing the Quran is using good speech to portray his message.
So when Hazrat Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman and Ali read this ayah, they understood this verse as referring to the Quran. That is the way of thy Lord. That is the way of...
Challenge number 2 to all Quranists, including the Da'i Ayub Karim. You see, they cannot escape hadith. He says this ayah was understood by Sayyidina, we have respect, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Uthman, Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhum ajma'in. He says they understood it in a certain way. We understand it differently. So he's giving his superimposed meaning. Now, let me just explain to you what I mean by superimposed meaning. You see, the Quran's logic, or illogic rather, they tell you, you must not believe in Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, these people who lived in the first 3 centuries of Islam, close to Islam, close to the time of the Prophet, which by the way they can't prove, they tell you don't listen to them. They are fabricators, they are liars. But who you must listen to? You must listen to Ayub Karim. You must listen to the false prophet Rashad Khalifa, people who came 1400 years later. Now, if you are logical, if 300 years after the prophet means fabrication, what about 1400 years? So, what they are actually saying is, we know better. Quranists, we know better. Nobody else knows. This is arrogance, arrogance of the highest order. Now, he says, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, how they. Now, I challenge every hadith rejector. Show me one verse in the Quran where Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali are mentioned. Ayub Karim. Where is Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali? And where is their understanding of this verse that you quoted? You are using as evidence for Quran only. You are using the hadith to support evidence for Quran only while rejecting the hadith. Is this sane? This is insanity. Getting Quranists to come on one viewpoint is like herding cats. It can't be done. My brothers in Islam, it can't be done.
Allah. That is the Quran and only the Quran. Where was the ahadith then? Where was Imam Bukhari? He was not in Baghdad. He was still in dad's bag.
Allahu Akbar. Look at the arrogance. This particular statement shows you that we are dealing with people that have no way of understanding the prophetic tradition. Do you think the Prophet ﷺ would speak like this here about someone? He wouldn't speak like this about his greatest enemy. This man said in his earlier part of the video that the Prophet in the Quran was a man of this, he was a man of that, he was a man of that. But the hadith made him look bad. And then what does he do? So if you believe that, that means you're acting like a person who accepts hadith. You speak like this about someone who in his baby fingernail would wrap you and your entire Quranism foundation up. And you speak like this. This is arrogant. This is not just arrogance, this is desperation. You people don't know what to do. No one's listening to you. That which brings me to the point, then Shaykh Faheem, if no one's listening to you, why are you making this video? I'm making this video because as ulama, our responsibility is that when a deviant sect, a schism approaches in our vicinity, it becomes our responsibility, however small, to shed light on the deviance and deception of this ideology. And I've challenged people of this ideology publicly, and now we have a 300-page academic book that answers all of the questions. And we wait for a refutation, and I don't know if we'll ever get a response to it. But this is pathetic wording, and I appeal to this man. You need to make tawbah. You need to desist from this. And then the public need to not get physical or verbal abuse of you, but you need to be questioned for your aqidah by people who know you. But you are more than welcome to visit us. You make an appointment, you come and sit with us. You can bring your disputes, we will level it out. And inshallah, we are hopeful that if you are a sane, logical, intellectual person, you will see the fallacy of your ways.
All the companions of the Prophet recited this ayah as well. Even after the passing away of the Prophet, they read this same ayah and understood it as only the Quran being the way of Allah.
Again, where's he getting this from? He's getting this information from the hadith, but he rejects hadith. Very convenient, or there's another word for it. It's called hypocrisy. It's called contradiction. And when a position, especially in Aqidah, is directly contradictory, that position is false. And he's proving it. He's digging the hole even bigger. And the silly people who support him are saying, well done. That even goes to show where they are.
Which hadith did they use to interpret and understand this verse of the Quran? A hadith only came into existence some 300 to 400 years after the Prophet. Can you see?
False. Another argument from ignorance. This is false. And this is a common fallacy, a common argument raised by blind hadith rejectors. The earliest collection of hadith, we can go right to the second generation tabi'i, Hammam bin Munabbah. There's the first collection of hadith before Imam Al-Bukhari. We also have Muwatta Imam Malik. So, and this can be proven. There's enough data, enough documentation, and showing those same asanid that oral transmitted, that were in their collections and later appear in the books of hadith. Our tradition can be proven. You got a big problem. If I ask you today where the Quran was revealed, you can't show me from the Quran, because there's no ayah that says this Quran was revealed in Makkah. You have to falsely deduce things. We can show you from the hadith tradition. You can't do that. When we ask you when it was revealed, you can't show me it was revealed 1400 years ago. It's not going to work for you. So you have a big problem in this secular and atheistic age. You can't answer the questions of an atheist. You can't give dawah, because Quranism is circular reasoning based on a cultist ideology.
The stupidity of the Sunni logic. So all the Sunnis are inviting people to Islam. What Islam are they inviting people to? The Islam that they are inviting people to is not, I emphasize, is not the Islam of the Prophet. They are inviting people to a fabricated Islam invented by Imam Bukhari, the Sahih Sitarian, centuries after the Prophet. It's just that I feel sorry for those people who think that they are accepting Islam. But in reality, they are accepting Sunnism and not Islam of the Prophet. This is further reinforced by the following verses of the Quran. We read in Surah 6, verse 153. Verily, this is my way, leading straight. Follow it, follow no other paths. They will scatter you about from his great path. Thus does he command you that you may be righteous. Then we read in Surah 12, verse 108. Say thou, this is my way. I do invite unto God, on evidence clear as the seeing with one's eyes. I, and whosoever follows me, glory to God, and never will I join gods with God. According to these verses of the Quran,
My respected brothers and sisters in Islam, the problem with all Quranists, they love quoting verses of the Quran. Majority of them out of context anyway, majority of them misrepresentation of verses. Again, this is not an academic response. This is actually, it's funny in a way. It's sad, the reality, but it's funny that with everything that's happening in Gaza, we have to focus on stupidity of this sort. But I urge you to do your own research, and our appeal is to read the book. If you have any questions that you would like to respond to these kind of people, it's already over there. But when these people quote these verses, they can't provide a context. So when the Prophet says, this is my path, what is the path? Show it to me. They'll only be able to take another verse that says one thing or another thing, but they can't show you the path. That's the problem. The hadith can actually show you that. And remember, in terms of the hadith, we can prove that the hadith is mandated by the Quran. We don't change the Quranic words because of our position, which is what they do. It's something that we've proven in our publication.
the way to Allah is only the Quran, nothing else. According to the Quran, we have only one.
So all of the people in the past, they never found their way to Allah until these people came. Nobody found their way to Allah. This is what they say.
One Lord, and that is Allah. But the Sunnis were not happy with Allah as their one and only Lord. They chose Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, they chose the Sahih Sitarian as their lords, and they prefer following a Prophet Muhammad that the Sahih Sitarians fabricated for them. I appeal to you to think about this. Are you obeying the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the Quran, or are you following the fabricated Prophet Muhammad found in the Ahadith? Until my next video.
Until your next video, gosh, I hope no one is unfortunate enough to experience this and to be further misguided from the truth. But majority of what is being said here is based on fallacious reasoning. Again, the details of Quranism with foundational flaws, the question that it can never and will never be able to answer. We've presented these challenges in our publication academically in clear written form. The problem of Quranism is that it relies on circular reasoning, and circular reasoning is an illogical position. So, my brothers in Islam, those of sisters in Islam, all of you, those of you who sent me this video, I hope this has helped to clarify that this man and his position, the position of Quranism, Hadith rejection, is a fallacious one steeped in ignorance, absurdity, and illogic. So, my advice to each and every one of you is to study your deen, stay focused, continuously ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to safeguard you from these deceptive and deviant thoughts. But we welcome interaction and we appeal to Him and to those who follow this ideology out of laziness, of the strictness in the hadith, to follow their desires and follow this Quran only because they can do as they want now because there's no strictness on the hadith, to make tawbah, come again to the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very forgiving. He will inshallah forgive you. There is still time. If anything good has been achieved, the praise belongs to Allah. The faults are mine. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbi wa atubu ilayhi. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.